All right, guys, welcome back to another lecture. We're halfway through to week 4, and we're going to talk about motivation and leadership and communication and leadership. So, what we're going to try to do is a couple things. We're going to look at how leaders can use motivation to impact their workplaces. We're going to look at the difference between intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. We're going to look at the importance of mastery, purpose, autonomy as it relates to motivating people. And then we're going to look at a little bit about our newest generations of potential employees, which are millennials and the Z generation. So we need to start with, what is motivation? Kind of a book definition for you. It's a collection of factors that can be internal or external or both. That's unique to each person that kind of determines the direction and really how sustainable a person's behavior is, or their effort level is, their persistence level. I like this quote. It's from an executive with a Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. The tricky part is finding out what motivates each and every employee. I found communication, openness, and a judgment-free environment leads to motivated employees. And really, it's going to depend on everybody. Everybody's different. And that's the tricky part for leaders. Is we have to figure out what motivates each of the people that we're either coaching or that are working with us. So rewards tie big into motivation. And we've all heard this before, guys. Intrinsic rewards is it's within ourself. It's that feeling that you got something accomplished, that you're growing as a person, where extrinsic are usually more materialistic, meaning, their time off, their, your salary, cost of living, paid vacation. They're things that you can see, you can put your hands on. And so as we start to look at what builds motivation in our workplace, and this will certainly apply to on our teams also, autonomy is a big deal. And what that means, guys, is it's being able to kind of have a choice in your work, to be in a place where people trust you and they support, when you have new ideas. It's a place where, criticism is taken as a positive deal. And there's transparency. And so you're going to hear me talk in some of the videos this week. Daniel Pink, if you haven't read his book Drive, I highly recommend that you read that book. It's a book. It's based on research. It's really well written, and it talks all about what motivates people. A second thing is we have to have purpose, and people have to feel like they have something, or they're working towards something that's greater than them. There's nothing more frustrating to work or play for a team where you don't feel like there's a greater purpose. And that's a big part of leadership, is providing or helping people see the purpose. Then another building block is mastery. This is that idea of being able to get better, to master something. And a lot of this mastery deal has to deal a lot with mindset. Another book I'd highly recommend you read is Grit by Carol Dweck. She talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Okay, a lot of times in our organizations, people don't want to change. They don't want to grow. And then a lot of to growing and mastering something is you have to have this idea or this grit about you where you're willing to finish stuff and go through hard times and deal with things that are harder than what you want them to be. So leadership and motivation go hand in hand. There's this leader-member exchange, and it's basically it's the relationship that develops between a leader and the people that they're leading. It's built through interactions. It's built through relationships. And research tells us that if we have a high high level of leader-member exchange, we're going to have a high level of trust, respect. There's going to be loyalty between both parties, the leader and the follower. And this leads to a highly productive work environment. Another quote I like that I found is, so far in my career, I've found a few qualities and great leaders that have stuck with me and inspire me to work hard for them. Leaders who empower me to do my work and trust that I can do it correctly rather than micromanaging and telling me what to do every move are my favorite. So again, it's that concept of trusting people to do their job and then getting out of their way and letting them do their job. And you have to empower people. Okay, and this empowering leadership goes a lot right along with transformational leadership. It's a style to help people to transform themselves into their own self-leaders. And this is the best way I can describe this to you. I was real fortunate to work for a head coach when I was younger. And the very first meeting we had of every year, he let us know that we were the CEO of our position. Meaning he was going to get out of our way. He was going to give us the game plan, but it was our job to coach that position like we were the CEO of that position, to lead that position. We were the leader of that position. He didn't micromanage us. He got out of our way, and it was the best probably environment I've ever worked in. And so leaders, particularly in sport, they've got to put a structure in place where employees feel like they're trusted, empowered to bring new ideas down, and there's a confidence about them. Okay, and that confidence has to come from the top down. Okay, people have to feel like they're able to take risk, for their organization, and they're gonna, not necessarily held accountable, but they're not gonna be come down on if things don't work exactly like they think they're going to. So switching gears a little bit is this idea of how do we start to motivate these different generations of people. So guys, we're already in the midst, and a lot of you are millennials, and you get a bad rap. Okay. So I've posted links to all these studies, but millennials, they want to kind of feel engaged. Okay, they want their bosses, they want their managers, their leaders to meet with them, to engage with them. They want to have opportunities to grow professionally. Okay, they want the opportunity to learn on the job, and it's kind of a struggle when they're working for people who aren't like that. Okay, these people want to have interaction with the people that are up the chain from them. Okay, they're not necessarily looking to skip the hierarchy, but they want more of a flat type of organizational structure, meaning they want to be able to have engagement with those people who are up the ladder from them and interact with them. And so that's a little bit of a struggle. Okay, they are a little bit more high maintenance. They do need a little bit more feedback. But they're good employees if you put them in a situation that they can work in. And I've posted numerous articles talking about how to communicate with millennials in this week's module. Then this newest or next generation that we're going to have to work with and coach is Generation Z. And these are students that are just starting to come to college now. Okay, and these people are much more, independent. They're not very trusting of big business, and so they're much more intrigued with starting their own business, being their own boss, and they want autonomy. They want the feel of purpose. They're all about changing the world, about doing a lot of social work, a lot of good work in the world, and they want to be in a workplace where they have the ability to make change. The other big thing about them, guys, is they're digital natives. So these people, this generation has never known a world when they didn't have technology. Their first go-to is to try to Google it. Okay. With that being in mind, guys, they have really short attention spans. Okay. So we have to figure out ways to, rather than criticizing them, we have to figure out ways to lead them, to manage them, to work with them. And so it leads into this idea of, well, what really motivates somebody to lead? Okay, what makes somebody decide that they want to be a leader? Because we've already established that necessarily leaders aren't born. So there's a couple of things, and these are kind of concepts, I guess. There's this affective identity, which is that somebody is going to become a leader because it feels natural to them. Okay, meaning that they're extroverted a lot of times. They're have individualism, and they kind of naturally want to fall into that role. Then there's this other concept of being non-calculative, and this is being that people are they have a stability emotionally. They're able to have this kind of collectivism where they seek out others' opinions. They look for harmony in the workplace, which is again another quality of becoming a leader. And then this last one is the idea of a social norm, which means they feel like they have a social duty or obligation to lead. Okay, meaning that they've probably had leadership abilities in the past, or maybe even leadership experiences, and so they're looking for opportunities to lead again. And so it comes to this deal of, all right, if we're going to have these leaders that are emerging, okay, and maybe we're looking for leaders within our organization, what predicts somebody becoming a leader? So this first idea is narcissism, which is a bad trait to a certain extent. But if you look at the good sides of it, people are they have high self-esteem. A lot of leaders do. They're borderline arrogant. Okay, some of them. They're confident. People always see narcissism, I guess, as always being, negative, but we're going to look at some of the positive aspects of it. Having this tendency to have poor judgment, okay, or being anxious. These are kind of factors that predict somebody who may be a leader. But there are also positive things like being agreeable, being trusting, having humility, which again, some people look at a negative way or as being weak, but people sometimes appreciate others, admitting when they're wrong, okay, saying when they've done the wrong thing, being conscious, okay, being able to have tenacity, to be persistent in what you're doing. And then most leaders are extroverts. They're sociable, they're active, they're energetic. And so all of this kind of leads into this idea of, as leaders, we have to look for people who not only can be emergent leaders on our teams, but also training the leaders for the future. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is this idea of motivating volunteers. We're all using volunteers, whether it's parents, as coaches, whether it's, students in our athletic department. And the research says that we're really struggling to keep volunteers. And a lot of the reason is because there's no structure involved where people get any kind of personal growth or any kind of involvement. And so what people ultimately want as volunteers is they want, they want to be around the event, particularly if it's a big event, but they want to feel like they're getting something out of it intrinsically, meaning that they're growing as a person, and that's a huge deal to them. And so, as we start to look at volunteers, this is kind of just a kind of an inventory of why people volunteer. Okay, so it could be that they're volunteer for something that fits their values, or they want to gain experience. They want to be social, interact with people. Maybe they're trying to improve their career. Maybe a lot of people volunteer because they feel like they've been blessed and they want to help other people out. And some of it is just intrinsic. They want to enhance their self-esteem. So as we're looking to train volunteers and looking to keep volunteers, guys, we want to look at what we can provide them. And it's a lot about that idea of looking at how to motivate people. We need to figure out what it is that motivates them. Same thing with our employees, what motivates them, and then we need to create an environment that helps do that. I look forward to hearing your responses this week, guys. Great articles coming out, great videos. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.